Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today's case covers a truly heartbreaking and disturbing case from the UK. We're talking about the story of Libby Squire, a promising philosophy student at the University of Hull, whose life was tragically cut short after a night out. Before we dive into the details, please take a moment to hit subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps the channel to keep these stories alive. Today, we'll uncover the events of Libby's case, the search for answers, and the haunting discoveries that followed. We'll also discuss some of the important legacy Libby's family is fighting for today. For those of you listening on podcast, you will be able to hear video audio, but CCTV is visual only. Let's start by getting to know Libby a little better. Liberty Anna Squire, or Libby as everyone knew her, was born on New Year's Day in 1998. She grew up in the historic village of West Wycombe in Buckinghamshire, surrounded by the beautiful landscapes of the Chiltern Hills. With its Georgian architecture and scenic views, it's a small, peaceful community, a place that seems a world away from the tragedy that would later unfold. Libby was the eldest of 4 children in a tight-knit family. Her parents, Lisa and Russ, remember her as a creative, lively young woman who had a unique gift for putting others at ease. She loved life, her friends, and had a wicked sense of humor. Libby was in her second year at the University of Hull studying philosophy, and she had big dreams for the future. Her friends say she was at the happiest point in her life, ready to take on the world. The last night of January 2019 started out like any other for Libby. She went out with friends to a popular local nightclub, the Welly. But when she was refused entry due to intoxication, her friends put her in a taxi back to her nearby student house. Unfortunately, Libby never made it inside. Instead, CCTV cameras captured her wandering alone along Beverly Road, distressed and vulnerable. It was a bitterly cold night, with temperatures dropping below freezing. These were the last confirmed images of Libby before she disappeared, sparking a frantic search that would consume the Hull community. As soon as Libby's friends and family reported her missing, Homicide police launched an enormous search operation. Over 200 officers, supported by search dogs, drones, and even a helicopter, scoured Hull and its surrounding areas. They combed through parks, fields, and the River Hull, working tirelessly in freezing conditions to find any trace of Libby. The police urged the public to come forward with information, and the University of Hull community quickly rallied to support the search. People left messages and flowers at the spot where she was last seen, showing how deeply Libby's disappearance affected everyone. For weeks, the search continued, with no significant leads. Libby was officially treated as a missing person, and the police were desperate to find clues to her whereabouts. The breakthrough they needed would come from the city's CCTV cameras. Hull's streets are dotted with cameras, and police meticulously reviewed hours of footage to reconstruct Libby's last known movements. They traced her path from the nightclub to Beverly Road, piecing together her journey on that fateful night. This CCTV shows Libby after she left the club. It was in this footage that they identified a suspicious vehicle, a silver Vauxhall Astra, circling the area where Libby was last seen. The car appeared to slow down as it passed Libby, and moments later, it stopped. The driver was seen interacting with Libby before she got into his car.
The CCTV shows the date, the 1st of February, and the time just seconds after midnight, although the clock is in fact a minute slow. Even though a cobweb partially covers the camera, the yard's gates and cars parked in the street outside are clearly visible. 2 bright flashes of light are seen, indicating a car being unlocked, followed 3 seconds later by 4 more. 2 seconds after that, a man is seen for the first time as he walks into view. He opens a door and sits in the driver's seat facing out, but his face is not easily seen. His hands are close together, appearing to be rolling a cigarette. After sitting for exactly 2 minutes 52 seconds, he stands up, walks away, and the car's lights flash again as it's locked. 1 minute and 42 seconds later, after more flashes, a person is seen on the opposite side of the car and opens the front passenger door. It's difficult to see what happens, but it appears someone or something is put inside. Seconds later, the man reappears on this side of the car, gets into the driver's seat, puts the headlights on and reverses before driving off at around 8 minutes after midnight.
This footage would become the keystone of the investigation, pointing the police to their prime suspect. On February 6, 2019, just 5 days after Libby disappeared, police arrested Powell Relowich, a local butcher who was married with young children. Investigators uncovered a history of disturbing behavior, including voyeurism, public indecency, and motivated burglaries. However, he had no prior convictions, which made it difficult for authorities to connect him to these offenses initially. I have made a deliberate decision not to post pictures of Powell's family. During the arrest, Relowich was reportedly calm, even smirking in some of the photos taken by police. For the investigators, this only added to the sense of unease. What kind of person could act so indifferent when linked to such a serious case? Following his arrest, police searched Relowich's car and home for evidence. Inside the car, they discovered DNA traces that matched Libby, further linking him to her disappearance. They also found additional disturbing items that connected him to other unsolved crimes in Hull. One chilling detail they found was drone footage that Relowich had taken of himself near the areas where he had committed voyeuristic acts. This evidence painted a picture of a man whose behavior had escalated over time, from non-contact sexual offenses to something far more sinister. As police gathered more information, they became convinced that Relowich was involved in Libby's death. But there were still gaps in the case that needed to be filled. Investigators worked meticulously, knowing that they would need a strong case to bring him to trial. On March 20th, 2019, nearly 7 weeks after she went missing, the search for Libby came to a tragic conclusion. The Coast Guard discovered Libby's body in the Humber estuary near Spurn Point. Due to the time she had spent in the water, a visual identification was not possible, so police relied on a post-mortem examination to confirm her identity. This discovery was obviously absolutely devastating for her family and the wider Hull community, but it also provided the police with new avenues to explore. They now had Libby and DNA evidence, which would be critical in building a case against Relowich. With Libby found, police focused on building a strong case against Relowich. They analyzed CCTV footage, DNA evidence, witness testimonies, and Relowich's own disturbing history. Investigators believed he had taken advantage of Libby's vulnerable state on that cold night, abducted her, and assaulted her in a secluded area before disposing of her body in the River Hull. This CCTV video tagged with Libby and Relowich shows how police were able to see the premeditation and how Relowich hunted Libby. Through interviews, police also discovered that nearby residents had heard high-pitched female screams on the night of Libby's disappearance, near the Oak Road playing fields where Relowich's car had been seen. This chilling detail added further weight to the case against him. The trial for the murder of Libby Squire began in January 2021 at Sheffield Crown Court, almost 2 years after her disappearance. Leading the prosecution was Richard Wright QC, who presented a compelling case against Relowich. He argued that on the night of January 31, 2019, Relowich took advantage of Libby's vulnerable state. Through a careful presentation of CCTV footage, DNA evidence, and witness testimonies, Wright built a timeline of events that pointed to Relowich's guilt. He argued that Relowich, a known sexual predator with a record of voyeurism and indecent behavior, abducted Libby with the intention of sexually assaulting her. The CCTV footage from that night showed Relowich stopping his car near Libby, persuading her to get in and driving away. The prosecution highlighted that Relowich was later seen driving to Oak Road playing fields. Oak Road is a secluded area on the outskirts of Hull. Witnesses who lived nearby reported hearing high-pitched female screams coming from the area around the time Libby disappeared. The prosecution contended that these screams were likely from Libby and served as evidence of a violent encounter. Richard Wright QC argued that after Libby, Relowich left her body in the River Hull and was later seen at McDonald's without a care in the world. Libby was eventually carried by the water to the Humber estuary, where she was discovered nearly 7 weeks later. The prosecution also presented DNA evidence found on Libby's body and clothing, which matched Relowich, linking him directly to the crime. Finally, the prosecution emphasized Relowich's previous offenses: voyeurism, indecent exposure, and other SA-motivated burglaries that Wright argued had escalated and led to Libby's tragic end. The defense representing Powell Relowich was Oliver Saxby QC. The defense faced an uphill battle given the overwhelming circumstantial evidence. However, Saxby argued that while Relowich had encountered Libby on the night of her disappearance, he did not kill her. In fact, the defense argued that their encounter was consensual and that Relowich left Libby unharmed after their time together. One of the defense's main points centered on the cause of death. Because Libby's body had spent nearly 7 weeks in the water, the pathologists could not determine an exact cause of death. This lack of conclusive forensic evidence became a focal point in Saxby's argument. He claimed that there was no definitive proof that Relowich had murdered Libby, and that it was possible her death was a tragic accident that occurred after he left her alone. The defense also claimed that any sounds heard by witnesses that night could not definitively be linked to Libby. Saxby argued that while the screams were tragic, they did not necessarily indicate that a violent crime had taken place. He maintained that Relowich's encounter with Libby was consensual, despite the prosecution's portrayal of him as a predator. This defense strategy aimed to cast doubt in the minds of the jurors, using the uncertainty around Libby's exact cause of death to argue for a less damning interpretation of the events. After 6 days of deliberation, the jury found Relowich guilty of both the and murder of Libby Squire. On February 11, 2021, Judge Christina Lambert sentenced Relowich to life in prison with a minimum term of 27 years. Her sentencing statement was powerful, addressing the pain and grief Libby's family had endured, their indelible void, and the calculated cruelty Relowich had shown. Your actions that night were unspeakably cruel. You took advantage of a young woman who was vulnerable, alone, and in distress. Instead of helping her, you used her vulnerability to commit abhorrent acts. Your selfishness and lack of remorse have destroyed a family and taken an innocent life. Addressing Libby's parents, Lisa and Russ, Judge Lambert said, "Your family has endured unimaginable suffering, and your words in court about living in 2 worlds, one filled with hope and love, and the other a dark place without her daughter, echo the agony Relowich's actions have caused." I will put the link to the full trial sentencing document in the YouTube description. After the trial, Libby's family shared their feelings of heartbreak and devastation while also expressing a sense of justice. However, for Lisa Squire, Libby's mother, the pain remains unending. Post-trial statement from Libby's parents.
As a family, today's verdict changes nothing for us. There is no closure. We don't get to have Libby back, and our lives don't revert back to normal. However, we are pleased that all the hard work and dedication of the police and legal teams has been recognised. Libby will always be with us, and we are all so proud of our beautiful, caring, wonderful girl. And although she has been physically taken from us, the memories we have and the love we share will never be taken.
Libby's funeral took place on October 3rd, 2019, at the historic St. Lawrence's Church in West Wycombe. Friends, family, and community members gathered to honor her life and spirit. The church was filled with white roses, creating a peaceful, loving atmosphere. Mourners wore white ribbons or carried flowers, leaving messages of love and gratitude. The service began with Libby's favorite songs by Phil Collins and Take That, filling the room with memories. A video montage then shared moments of her life, capturing her joyful and curious spirit. The most emotional moment of the service came when Libby's mom, Lisa, delivered an absolutely beautiful tribute to her daughter. An adaptation of Wherever You Are, My Love Will Find You, by Nancy Tillman, promising her daughter she will never be alone, and her love for her will never fade. The poem shows the love that surrounded Libby throughout her 21 years. She read, "I wanted you more than you will ever know. So I sent love to follow wherever you go. It's as high as you wish it, it's as quick as an elf. You will never outgrow it, it stretches itself. So climb any mountain, climb up to the sky. My love will find you, my love can fly. Make a big splash, go out on a limb. My love will find you, my love can swim. It never gets lost, never fades, never ends. If you are working or playing or sitting with friends, you can dance till you're dizzy and sing out your blues. There's no place, not one, that my love can't find you. And if one day you're lonely, or someday you're sad, or feeling abandoned or think you've been bad, just lift up your face, feel the wind in your hair. That's me, my sweet baby. My love is right there. In the green of the grass, in the smell of the sea, in the clouds floating by, in the tops of the tree, in the sounds that you hear throughout the day, you are loved. You are loved, you are loved, they all say. My love is so high, so wide, and so deep. It's always right there, even when you're asleep. So hold your head high and don't be afraid to march to the front of your own parade. When you were my little small babe, and now you're all grown, my promise to you is that you're never alone. You are my angel, my darling, my pie, my star, and my love will find you wherever you are. It was clear to everyone listening that Libby had been not only a beloved daughter, but also a friend, sister, and light in the lives of those around her. In the years since Libby's murder, Lisa, her mom, has become an advocate for harsher penalties for non-contact offenses like voyeurism. She believes that the early signs of dangerous behavior is often dismissed as a minor crime, but it should be taken seriously, as they can escalate into far more violent acts if left unchecked.
I've been talking to various, people about, the increase in sentences for non-contact offenders. Every time I go anywhere to do a talk or go to any agency, I say to people, you must report them. You must report non-contact offences. And I just keep going over and over and over it again. So hopefully the message is sinking in.
I mean, it must feel good to know that, you're doing something about this and you're working alongside forces like Homicide Police with their campaign now to raise awareness.
Yeah, it's really lovely, and it's really nice that they asked me to be involved as well. And Homicide Police were absolutely amazing, as I've said millions of times. I couldn't have wished for a better team behind us when Libby was missing, and throughout the whole thing. So it does feel good to try and make a difference. And it's one of those things that you'll never know what difference you made, because we'll never know how many girls and women are saved, or who don't lose their lives because of something that somebody has done because of the non-contact offence awareness. And so it's one of those, you're never going to know, but let's hope it does make a difference.
Through her advocacy, Libby's legacy is living on, as her family fights to make the world a safer place for vulnerable young people. Thank you for joining me and taking the time to remember Libby and the search for justice and positive legacy. Please let me know your thoughts about this case. Take care, stay safe, and look out for each other. Until next time, bye.